Daf Yomi, 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 Daf Yomi. Tractate Shevuos, page 47a, top of the page. Bem Zayin Amud Aleph. We are almost done with the Masechta. We're almost complete with this tractate of Shevuos. And let's start. Top of the page, 47a, with the words V'chol Nedameh Le. And any oath that is similar to it, meaning that it is clearly a falsehood, disqualifies one from further oath taking. Okay. Haya echad mehen misachek bekuvia. The Mishnah teaches if one of the litigants was a dice player, or one who lends with interest, or among those who fly pigeons, or among the vendors of produce that grew during the sabbatical year, then the litigant opposing him takes an oath and receives payments of his claim. The Gemara asks, why do I need these additional examples of a person who is suspect with regard to oath taking? The Gemara explains the Mishnah first teaches examples of people who are disqualified by Torah law, and then teaches examples of those who are disqualified by rabbinic law. Okay. היו שני חשודים אבל לרב נחמן היחיתנן אמר לה לא ידענה הלכתה מאי אמר לה לא ידענה. The Mishnah teaches if both litigants were suspect, the oath returned to its place. This is the statement of Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Meir says since neither can take an oath, they divide the disputed amount. Rava said to Rav Nachman, how is it actually taught? What is Rabbi Yossi's opinion, and what is Rabbi Meir's opinion? Rav Nachman said to him, I do not know. Rava asked him, what is the halacha? Rav Nachman said to him, I do not know. Itmar, we learned, or it was stated, Amar Rabbi Yosef Bar Min Yomi, Amar Rav Nachman Rabbi Yossi Amar Yachaloku, V'chein Tani Rav Zvid Bar Oshaya, Rabbi Yossi Amar Yachaloku, Igad Amri Tani Rav Zvid Amar Rabbi Oshaya, Rabbi Yossi Amar Yachaloku, Amar Rabbi Yosef Bar Min Yomi. It was stated that Rav Yosef Bar Menyumi says, that Rav Nachman says, that Rav Yossi said they divide the disputed amount, and similarly Rav Zvid Bar Oshaya teaches that Rav Yossi says they divide the disputed amount. The Gemara records a slightly different version of this tradition. There are those who say that Rav Zvid teaches that Rabbi Oshaya says that Rabbi Yossi says they divide the disputed amount. Rav Yosef Bar Menyumi said that Rav Nachman ruled in an actual case that the litigants divide the disputed amount. Chazra Shvul Mekoy Malech Chazra Rabbi Ami Rabbi Seinu Shvul Bavel Amru חזרה שבועה לסיני, רבותינו שבארץ ישראל אמרו, חזרה שבועה למחויב לה. Rabbi Yossi rules in the Mishnah that in a case where both sides are suspect and cannot take an oath, the oath returned to its place. The Gemara asks, to where did it return? What is meant by the oath returning to its place? Rabbi Ami said that our sages in Babylonia say the oath returned to Sinai, where God administered an oath to the Jewish people that they would keep the mitzvot of the Torah, including the prohibition against robbery, The litigant who is robbing the other will be punished by God, not the court. Our sages in Eretz Israel said the oath returned to the one who was initially liable to take it, meaning the defendant, and since he is disqualified from taking an oath, he must pay. Amar Rav Papa, Rabbeinu Shebavel, Rav Shmuel, Rabbeinu Sheberetz Israel, Rabbi Abba, Rabbeinu Shebavel, Rabbi Shmuel Netnan, וכן הישראלים לא ייפרו אלא בשבוע והבניין בא מימן אילמה בלא יביא עוון שקיל בלא שבועה ואין הוא בשבועה אלא הכי כאמר וכן היתומים מן היתומים לא ייפרו אלא בשבועה. Rav Papa said that the term our sages in Babylonia refers to Rav and Shmuel, and the term our sages in Eretz Israel refers to Rabbi Abba. The fact that the term our sages in Babylonia refers to Rav and Shmuel is, as we learned in the Mishnah 45a. And likewise, orphans may collect along with a promissory note inherited from their father only by taking an oath. And we discussed it, see 48a, asking, from whom do they collect a debt by taking an oath? If we say that they collect this way from the borrower, meaning those who borrowed from their fathers, that would not make sense. Their father would take payment with the promissory note without taking an oath, and they collect only by means of taking an oath. Don't orphans have privileged status? Rather, this is what the Mishnah is saying. And even orphans do not collect with their father's promissory note from the borrowers or orphans, except by means of taking an oath. Rav u'Shmuel d'Amri tervayu lo yishanu ela shemeis malve b'chaye loive aval meis lo b'chaye malve kvar nitchayav malve livnei loive shvuah ve'ein adam mo'erish Rav Papa continues, and Rav and Shmuel both say that the sages taught that the lender's orphans need to take an oath in order to be paid by the borrower's orphans only when the lender died during the lifetime of the borrower, and the lender's children had an opportunity to collect directly from the borrower without taking an oath. But if the borrower died during the lifetime of the lender has already become liable to take an oath to the children of the borrower, since one can collect from orphans only by means of an oath, and a person cannot bequeath an oath, meaning a debt that requires the taking of an oath in order to be collected to his children, and no payment is made. The lender's children cannot take the oath that their father would have taken, that the promissory note has not been paid. The only oath they can take is that their father never told them that it had been paid, and that is insufficient once the father became liable to take an oath. From here it is clear that Rav and Shmuel hold that when no oath can be taken, the oath returns to Sinai, and the court takes no action. Rabbeinu Sheberetz Israel, Rabbi Abba, דאהו גבר לחטף נסחה מחברי, עשה לקמא דרבי עמי, יתיב רבי אבא לחמא, הייתך דסעדה דמכתף, חטפי מיני אמר לה, אין, חטפי, ודידי, חטפי. The fact that the term our sages in Eretz Yisrael refers to Rabbi Abba is as the following story illustrates. As there was a certain man who snatched a piece of cast metal from another. The one from whom it was taken came before Avami, while Rabbi Abba was sitting before him, and he brought one witness who testified that the other man did in fact snatch it from him. The one who snatched it said to him, "Yes, it is true that I snatched it, but I merely snatched that which was mine." Amar Ami Hechi Lidayenu Dayani Lahaidina Nemale Zil Shalem Lekatre Sahadi Diftare Ikachadzada Nemale Zil Ishtaba Kevan Daman Michtav Hatapi Havale Kigazlan. Rabbi Ami said, how should judges rule in this case? If they were to say to the one who snatched the metal, go pay for it, that would not be the correct ruling, because there are not two witnesses who saw him snatch it. And the court does not force payment based on the testimony of one witness. If they were to accept his claim and exempt him entirely, that would not be the correct ruling, because there is one witness who testified against him. If they were to say to him, go take an oath, which is the usual response to counter the testimony of one witness, once he said that he did in fact snatch it, and there is no proof that it is his, he is like a robber, and the court does not allow a robber to take an oath. Amar le Rabbi Abba, Hadi mechuyav shvua ve'en yachol yishava. V'chol mechuyav shvua ve'enu yachol yishava mishalem. Rabbi Abba said to him, he is one who is liable to take an oath, who is unable to take an oath, and anyone who is liable to take an oath, who is unable to take an oath, is liable to pay. This illustrates that Rabbi Abba holds that the oath returns to its place, meaning to the defendant who is disputed from taking oaths, and that consequently he must pay. Shevuos Hashem tiye ben shneim v'lo ben yorshin echidami. Rava said it stands to reason that the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Abba, as Rabbi Ami teaches his Braita. The verse states that the oath of the Lord shall be between them both, Exodus 22:10, but not between their heirs. What are the circumstances in which one would be liable to take an oath, but his heirs would be exempt? If we say that it is where the lender's son said to the borrower's son, 100 dinars that belonged to my father were in the possession of your father. As a loan, you must repay, and you must repay me, the borrower's son. And the borrower's son said to him, he had a debt of 50, and the other 50 he did not have to pay him, meaning he did not owe it. That is difficult under these circumstances. What does it matter to me if it is he or the borrower's heir or his father or the original borrower? Since the son is admitting that he owes part of the money and denying the rest with certainty, he is liable to take an oath just like his father would have been. And Allah rather, is it not that the lender's son said to the borrower's son, 100 dinars that were my father's were left in the possession of your father, and you must repay me? And the borrower's son said, so concerning 50 dinars, I know that my father owed them, but I do not know anything about the other 50 dinars. Okay, now we turn to 47b, top of the page. And Zayin base with Iamr for some Aviv ki Hai Gavna, Michayev Itzrich Kral, Miftar Ben Yoshin. Iamrit Aviv ki Hai Gavna, Nam Patur Karagabe Yorshin Lamali. Rava continues, granted, if you say that his father, in a case like this, would be liable to take an oath due to his partial admission, then the verse was necessary to exempt the heirs from taking the oath. But if you say that in a case like this, his father is also exempt from taking an oath, why do I need a verse about exempting the heirs? Evidently, an oath reverts to one who is liable to take it, and When he cannot take that oath, he must pay the claim against him. The Rav Ushmuel, Hai Shvuat Hashem, my Chadash. The Gemara asked, as for Rav and Shmuel, who hold that one who cannot take an oath does not have to pay, and therefore there is no difference between the heirs and the father, what do they derive from the verse, the oath of the Lord shall be between them both? Exodus 22:10. Shimon ben Tarfon Omer, Shevuos Hashem tiyeh ben shneim, elama sheshvuah chala al shneim. The Gemara answers, it is necessary for that which is taught in the Brayta. Shimon ben Tarfon says, the verse, the oath of the Lord shall be between them both, teaches that when one litigant imposes an oath on another and he takes a false oath, the oath applies to them both, meaning they are both held responsible for the desecration of God's name. Shimon ben Tarfon Omer, Azara leokev acher noef minayin, Talmud loma lo tinaf lo tanif. Since this sage was mentioned, the Gemara cites some of his other statements. Shimon ben Tarfon says, with regard to the prohibition of following after an adulterer, meaning providing him with assistance in carrying out adultery, from where is it derived? The verse states, you shall not commit adultery, lo tinaf, Exodus 20:13. If the verse is vocalized slightly differently, it may be read, you shall not cause adultery, lo tanif. V'taragno be'olechem. Shimon ben Tarfon Omer, tartem v'ginitem b'haro shel makom. Commenting on the verse describing the response of the Jewish people to the spies, Mamish, right in our parsha, talking about the spies. It's one after the other. It's really lining up this time. Commenting on the verse describing the response of the Jewish people to the spies' slander against Israel, and you murmured in your tents and said, because the Lord hated us, He has brought us forth out of the land of Egypt to deliver us into the hand of the Amorites, to destroy us. Deuteronomy 1:27, Shimon ben Tarfon says, Targenu is interpreted as though it is composed of two Hebrew expressions. You explored them, tartem, the land, and you disparaged, genitem, it in the tent of the omnipresent. Ad hanahar dola prat, Shimon ben Tarfon Omer, krav legabe dehina, ve'idhan deve Rabbi Ishmael tana, eved melech kemelech. With regard to the verse, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates, Deuteronomy 1:7, Shimon ben Tarfon said, although it is not the largest river, the Euphrates is called great in accordance with the adage, draw close to the one anointed with oil and become anointed as well. Because Euphrates is close to Eretz Israel, it is called great. The school of Rabbi Ishmael taught a similar idea. The servant of a king is like a king. Okay. Ve'achem v'niyan pinkaso. Ve'achem v'niyan pinkaso. Kule. Tanya Amar Rabbi Toirak Shevuos Zulama Amar Lo Rabbi Chia Baraba Tenena Shneim Nishbaim Notin Mi Barabais. The Mishnah teaches that a storekeeper relying on his ledger takes an oath and receives payment. If an employer tells the storekeeper to pay his laborers and the storekeeper claims he paid them, while the laborers claim that they did not receive payment, both the storekeeper and the laborers take oaths and receive payment from the employer. It is taught in a Brayta. Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi said, why is there the bother with this oath? that it is imposed upon both of them. Rechia said to him, we learned in the Mishnah, C45a, that both of them take an oath and receive payment of their claims from the employer. Kibla mine, ola kibla mine, tashima, titanya Rabbi Omer, po'alin nishba'in, echen bani, ve'im ita, libal abayit, nibaya, le. The Gemara asks, did Rabbi Yehuda not see accept from him that this is the halacha, or did he not accept it from him? Come in here, as it's taught in Bright to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi said, the laborers take an oath to the storekeeper that he had not paid them. And if it is so that Rabbi Yehuda Nasi accepted Rabbi Chia's ruling, then Rabbi Yehuda Nasi should have instead said that the laborers take an oath to the employer. Rava said, do not include that Rabbi Yehuda Nasi did not accept Rabbi Chia's ruling. Rather, interpret his statement as follows: the laborers take an oath to the employer in the presence of the storekeeper, so that they will feel ashamed to lie with him present, since he knows whether or not he paid them. Itma shnei kitei demamachishot zo et zo amavuna zo ba b'fnei asma meida v'zo ba b'fnei asma meida. Rechizon Omar v'hadei sahadi shakadi lamali. It was stated about a similar topic that if there were two sets of witnesses who contradict one another, and it is clear that one set must be testifying falsely, Rav Huna says this set can come by itself and testify about other cases, and that set can come by itself and testify. Neither set of witnesses is disqualified for future testimony, since there is no way of knowing which one was lying. Rav Chizda said, why do I need to become involved with lying witnesses? Since each set of witnesses is possibly untrustworthy, both sets are disqualified. Shnei mavin, shnei loivin, shnei shtois. Hainu pliktayu, malvin v'loivin, shnei shtois, yad balashtal, ala tachtoin. The Gemara cites the circumstances relevant to this dispute. If after contradicting each other, the two sets of witnesses testified about circumstances involving two distinct lenders and two distinct borrowers, and therefore two separate promissory notes, each one signed by a different set of witnesses, this sort of scenario is the subject of their dispute. According to Rav Huna, both promissory notes are valid, and according to Rav Chizda, neither is valid. In the case of a single lender and a single borrower, and two promissory notes, with each signed by a different one of the sets of witnesses, the holder of the promissory note is at a disadvantage and can collect only the lower sum. One of the promissory notes is necessarily not valid, as it is signed by witnesses who testify falsely. Shnei malvin v'loive echad u'shnei shtoros hainu masnisin. Shnei loivin u'malve echad u'shnei shtoros mai teiku. This is probably the 196th teiku. Right? Yeah. In the case of two lenders and a single borrower and two promissory notes, this is the same as the Mishnah, where two claimants who contradict each other come to collect payment from a single person who must pay them both, as the evidence for both claims as a presumption of validity. In the case of two borrowers and a single lender and two promissory notes, what is the law? Can each of the borrowers claim that the promissory note supporting the claim against him is not valid, as it could have been signed by the untrustworthy set of witnesses, or does each of them have to pay unless he can prove that the promissory note against him was signed by the unfit set of witnesses. Two lenders, one borrower, two promissory notes. Okay. Or does each of them have to pay unless he can prove that the promissory note against him was signed by the unfit set of witnesses? The Gemara states this question shall stand resolved. Rav Huna bar Yehuda raises an objection to Rav Braiso.